But Zack Bayrouty, he joins us right now on the River Islands guest line. He's the play-by-play voice of the Sacramento River Cats. You can find him on Twitter at Zack Bayrouty. Zach, so glad to have you joining us on the show today. And I think a lot of Giants fans were very excited to hear the news that Bryce Eldridge is joining this team. Were you surprised it took this long for Bryce to get the call up to the big league club?
Thanks for having me, first of all. And no, I'm not surprised. And, I think maybe even if the Giants were in a better place right now, I think you might still see Bryce in AAA. I mean, they wanted him to get as many reps as he could, at first base and playing every day. But I think obviously the timing of everything, he certainly was locked in this past week when we were in Salt Lake. So, I'm not surprised it took this long. I think people nowadays expect guys to go right up and just be up there. But there's development that happens, and I think he was still, experiencing some good developmental moments at AAA.
Well, yeah, and I think even guys in the bigs are developing still at a younger level. So do you think he's ready? We'll get to the skill set and what he's done the last week, but is the timing, from your prerogative, is it the right time for him?
Sure. I mean, it's fascinating timing because you look at what he's done at the plate, in Sacramento, and, he struck out a third of his at-bats, but he's also drawn the most walks of anybody on the team. And, he's making consistent contact. He was really lighting it up this past week. I mean, he was seeing everything well and, didn't look like he was fooled much. And I think he defensively is better than most people think. He only committed one error. It was the other day in Salt Lake. He's only committed one error so far this season at first base. So I think he's ready. Do I think maybe there could have been more development along the way? Sure. But, I think we'll see what happens in the big leagues. And, there's development that happens there, like you said, as well. But he certainly was off to a really good start with the River Cats and is coming off a great series. So he's got some momentum going into San Francisco.
So the raw power jumps off the TV. It jumps off all the highlight packages. You keep referencing kind of some more development. What does he need to work on?
It's the swing and miss, obviously. Like, you strike out a third of the time you come up. And I know that might be kind of par for the course right now, with guys in the major leagues. I come from an era where guys didn't strike out that much, so maybe I'm just kind of a dinosaur. But, I think that there was still some of that happening. You go back to the last homestand when we were in Sacramento before we hit the road, and I think he finished that homestand, I want to say 3 for 17. So there have been some rough stretches in there as well. But, I think there's always development that is happening. And, Bryce is 21 years old. So it's going to be interesting to see when he gets up there, if pitchers can find some holes and if they exploit those holes. But, he's certainly capable and he's beyond his years. He's only 21 years old, but he doesn't play like he's 21 years old. So, I'm all in on Bryce. I don't mean to sound like I'm not. I'm all in on Bryce. It's just that, at 21 years old, there's, I think, development still happening. And, I think he's going to crush it in the big leagues. I do.
Well, this is why we're having you on. You're watching him. We're not. I'm watching Rafi Devers every single day. And I'm like,
Sure.
I saw this stat, he's swinging through, fastballs right down the heart of the plate 50% of the time. And I'm like, if you would have told me it was 75% of the time, I would believe you. The at-bats look awful, like absolutely awful. From the at-bats that you're watching from Bryce, how do I attribute so many strikeouts? Is it a lack of discipline in terms of not knowing the zone? Is he being fooled? Is he being pitched around and he's impatient? Like, what does it look like from your vantage point? Because you're watching every day. Because we just see the raw strikeout numbers, and I don't have context for that.
Sure. I mean, that's why I say it's fascinating, because the at-bats have not been bad. He's actually worked very quality at-bats. I don't think he's being fooled that much. I mean, I just think a guy that swings like he does is going to swing and miss his fair share of times. But I think the evidence of the quality at bats is in the number of walks that he's taken. He has shown great plate discipline and much better plate discipline this year than we saw last year. And he's not nearly exposed as much this year as he was last year at AAA. And when you're in AAA, you're going to face pitching that is experienced. I mean, these pitchers at the AAA level are major league veterans and guys who have pitched internationally and all over the world. So they know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly how to get you out. And it becomes kind of a chess match. So I don't think he's been exposed, and the at-bats have been pretty quality consistently here this year. So, I just think he swings and misses his fair share, and with a guy that has that type of power, you're going to get that, and you got to take the good with the bad.
Zack Bayrouty here joining us on the River Islands guest line. He's the play-by-play voice for the Sacramento River Cats. He's seen a lot of Bryce Eldridge play baseball this year. That's why we're talking to him. Zach, you mentioned a minute ago that he's been looking a lot better on defense. I think you said he had only one error at first base. Just in your eyes, where do you think the defensive improvement has shown the most so far this season? And if you were to pick something out of his defensive game that, maybe he still needs to work on, what would you highlight there?
Bryce, it's funny. I'll go back to a moment that I had with Bryce last year. I think we were in Oklahoma City and we were just chatting, and he was, he mentioned to me that he was upset that he thought that, people that were in San Francisco didn't think he could play first base, and that he thought he was a better first baseman than people give him credit for. And I would agree with that. He's had soft hands this year. I think maybe with the one thing he might need a little work on and maybe some more reps is just kind of picking the ball at first. But people don't understand that he didn't play first base in high school. I mean, he was a pitcher. So it's a position that he's learning. He's worked really hard at it. He goes out there for early work every day, and he's much improved. I mean, he has been consistently good, as evidenced by the fact that he made one error, and it was just the other night, like 30 games into the season. So I think he's going to be better over there than most people give him credit for. And
then I guess, to your knowledge, has he taken any fly balls in the outfield at all, 4 games or anything like that? Because he got a cup, like one day taking fly balls in left field. That got people thinking. Has he taken any fly balls in the outfield at all this season, to your knowledge?
I would be very surprised to see Bryce play the outfield in the big leagues. I'll put it that way. He is not that I've seen. I have not seen him have any reps in the outfield. He has been consistently at first base every day, and that's something, certainly the Giants wanted to expose him to at AAA this year.
Now, you said you've been around him a lot. What's he like as a guy? When we got a little glimpse of Brock Purdy at a very young age, it's like, wow, he's very mature. He is very serious. And, ball is life. There's nothing else. And that was very, important, I think, to a lot of 49er fans. Where's Bryce at in terms of, what kind of guy he is?
He's a great dude. He is a fantastic human being. He is, as I mentioned, he's kind of mature beyond his years, a 21-year-old who, had that big signing bonus and all the accolades and all the attention on him. He couldn't handle it any better than he's handled it. I asked him a couple weeks ago, we were in Tacoma, and I interviewed him for my pregame show. And my last question to him was, how do you handle it? I mean, it's a lot of pressure for being 21 years old. It's a huge market. He goes, you know what? I deleted my Twitter. I just don't pay attention anymore to the noise. Because that's something that players back in the day didn't even have to deal with. I mean, this is something that's new. I mean, this is a new kind of pressure that players have to experience. And he said, you know what? Baseball is what I do. It's not who I am. And I got the same exact answer a handful of years ago from Corbin Carroll when I interviewed him when I was with Reno and he was coming up with the Diamondbacks. And that to me is the comp. Corbin Carroll was the same age as Bryce, and they were both advanced beyond their years mentally. And so I was fascinated by that answer from Bryce, and that just, I think, gives you an insight as to what kind of a person he is, and I think it helps him be a better player that he thinks that way.
What's he like as a teammate? To go down after being with the big club in spring training. Some guys maybe think that they don't belong down there. So what's he been like as a teammate for those guys on that team?
Oh, that's not Bryce at all. I don't think he had any illusions. I think everybody that was kind of in the know knew that he was, unless something crazy happened in spring training, that he was going to start back in Sacramento, and there was no entitlement, none. I think he was grateful to have that experience last year. I think it was really kind of unexpected. I remember when he got called up, we were in the TSA line in Oklahoma City. And it was right as he was about to go through the screener, and he was shocked. I mean, it wasn't like he was like, oh yeah, I saw it coming. He was truly grateful for the opportunity. And I think he knows that there was still development to be had. I mean, he wanted to be up there, sure, but he's also 21 years old. He understands what the situation is. He understands what the personnel situation is in the big leagues. And I think he was more than willing to develop and just kind of wait for the opportunity. So, There was no entitlement. He's a fantastic teammate and just a pleasure for everyone to be around.
What's the guy like when he's struggling? Because I think that's a big thing in baseball. Like everybody looks good when they're balling out of control. What's his demeanor like? I mean, is he slam the bat on the ground kind of a guy? Break a bat over his knee? Is he stoic? Does he show no emotion? What's he like when he's struggling?
No, I've never ever seen Bryce lose it. Have I seen him kind of maybe give himself a talking to as he walks back to the dugout after a tough AB? Sure, but I've never seen him go off on himself. And obviously that's kind of the makeup you want in baseball, is you want someone who keeps it steady and an even keel, and that's who Bryce is. Unless he's done something in the shadows I haven't seen. I mean, I have not heard any stories. I mean, he's a guy who keeps it even, keeps it easy, and believes in his ability.
Zack Bayrouty here joining us on the River Islands guest line, play-by-play voice of the Sacramento River Cats. Zach, Bryce isn't the only guy getting called up. We're also going to see catcher Jesús Rodriguez. Of course, he was acquired in the Camilo Doval trade last year from the Yankees. Just give us a little rundown on Jesús. How's he looked at the plate? How's he looking behind the plate so far this year?
Yeah, I know Bryce is the headliner here, but don't sleep on Jesús Rodriguez. He's a guy that, Buster acquired him for a reason. It's because he puts the bat on the ball. He's got tremendous skills in that area. Behind the plate, he's fine. I mean, he's fine. He's not Patrick Bailey, but he's going to hold his own back there and be fine. He's a guy who has plus speed for a catcher, so he's fun to watch run. He can run the bases. He can play pretty much any position, second base, outfield. We've seen him play both of those positions this season. And talk about a guy that's a self-made guy. He signed, I think, for about $10,000 with the Yankees. He was not on the radar of any of the prospect outlets, and he turned himself into a dude. And I'm a big fan of guys like that. So don't sleep on Jesús Rodriguez. I think he's really going to crush it up there.
I like that. Is there anyone else that we should keep our eyes on that you're watching and you're like, this guy's coming, be it on your team, or maybe there's murmurs that you're hearing might be on his way up through the system? Where's Whisenhunt? I'm just, Giants fans, we're just down bad right now. I mean, we're down bad. Sure. We're needing any kind of spark. So is there anybody we should be optimistic about that we may see this year?
Well, I think both the Carsons. I'm going to jump over to the pitching side. I think Carson Whisenhunt and especially Carson Seymour are two guys who are probably close. I mean, Wiz pitched yesterday and was outstanding. The key for Whisenhunt is he's got to develop that third pitch, which is the slider, which he actually threw really well yesterday. And that's only going to enhance his changeup when he masters that slider a little bit more. But Carson Seymour, for me, has been the guy to watch. I mean, he's got that power two-seamer 97, 98, and you talk to any scout or any guy who's had to step in the box and face Carson Seymour, and they're like, this is really elite stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised to see either of the Carsons jump up there anytime soon, and I think they're both capable and can go up and right now pitch in the big leagues and get plenty of outs.
Oh, that is terrific to hear, Zach. It's terrific to hear your voice on the Morning Roast. We'll have to do this more often as more guys from the River Cats join the Giants. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Anytime, guys. Have a great day.
Awesome. That was the voice of Zack Bayrouty on the River Islands guest line, play-by-play voice of the Sacramento River Cats.